A Mafia boss lined up 4 elegant women for his daughter to choose a new mother. The little girl looked at them all, then walked past every single one. She wrapped her arms around the quiet maid in the corner and whispered, "I choose her." What the boss didn't know, his maid had been a trained bodyguard all along, sent years ago to protect his daughter. And she'd been ready to die for that promise ever since. The crystal chandelier above the dining table cast dancing shadows across 4 nervous faces. Enzo Romano stood at the head of the table, his dark suit perfectly pressed, his expression carved from stone. He wasn't a man who smiled often. Tonight was no exception. "Lily," he said, his voice deep and measured. "Come say hello to our guests." A small girl with wild curls and her mother's green eyes peeked around the doorway. She wore a yellow dress with white flowers, the one her father had laid out that morning without explanation. At 7 years old, Lily Romano already knew that when Papa used that tone, you listened. She walked slowly into the dining room, her patent leather shoes clicking against the marble floor. 4 women sat around the mahogany table, each one more elegant than the last. The first wore red lipstick and pearls. The second had blonde hair swept into a perfect bun. The third was younger, maybe 25, with kind eyes and a nervous smile. The fourth sat with her back rigid, diamonds glittering at her throat. "These ladies," Enzo began, placing a heavy hand on his daughter's shoulder, "are very special. One of them might become part of our family." Lily's eyes widened. She looked up at her father, then back at the women. "Like a new mama?" The room fell silent. The woman in pearls shifted uncomfortably. The blonde one tried to smile, but it came out wrong. Too eager. The young one with kind eyes looked genuinely sad. The one with diamonds simply stared ahead, as if this were a business transaction. Which, for Enzo Romano, it was. "Yes," he said flatly. "Like that." Before anyone could respond, the kitchen door swung open. A woman in a simple gray uniform entered carrying a tray of wine glasses. She was maybe 30, with dark hair tied back and no makeup. She moved with quiet efficiency, setting glasses in front of each guest without making eye contact. "Thank you, Elena," Enzo said without looking at her. Elena nodded and turned to leave. That's when Lily did something unexpected. She pulled away from her father and grabbed Elena's hand. "Can Elena sit with us?" the little girl asked. The maid froze. The 4 women at the table exchanged glances, some amused, some offended. Enzo's jaw tightened. "Lily, Elena has work to do. Go sit down." "But I want."
"Now."
The little girl's shoulders sagged. She let go of Elena's hand and moved to her chair at the far end of the table, looking small and lost among all the adults. Elena disappeared back into the kitchen without a word. The woman with pearls cleared her throat. "Mr. Romano, your home is absolutely stunning. And your daughter is precious. I'm sure we'll get along wonderfully." "I collect art," said the blonde woman, jumping in. "I could teach her about culture, refinement." "I love children," interrupted the young one. "I used to volunteer at an orphanage. I understand what it's like to lose a mother." "Gentlemen don't discuss business at dinner," the woman with diamonds said coldly, cutting through the others. "Perhaps we should eat first and talk later." Enzo nodded slowly. He snapped his fingers, and 2 servers emerged from the kitchen with covered platters. But not Elena. She stayed hidden. The first course was served. Awkward conversation filled the air. Lily pushed food around her plate, saying nothing. She kept glancing toward the kitchen door. Then, without warning, the lights flickered.
Once. Twice.
The chandelier dimmed, then blazed bright again. Enzo's entire body went rigid. His hand moved instinctively to his waist, where a gun sat hidden beneath his jacket. "Stay calm," he said quietly. But the women didn't hear him. They were too busy chattering nervously about the storm outside, about old wiring, about nothing important. Enzo stood slowly. He made a subtle gesture to the 2 guards stationed at the entrance. They straightened, hands moving to their weapons. That's when the windows exploded. Glass shattered inward as gunfire erupted from the darkness outside. The women screamed. Plates crashed to the floor. The chandelier swayed violently, one of its crystals snapping loose and falling like a diamond tear. Enzo dove toward his daughter, but someone was faster. Elena burst through the kitchen door, her gray uniform already streaked with something dark, maybe wine, maybe blood. She didn't hesitate. She crossed the room in 3 powerful strides, scooped Lily up with one arm, and with her other hand, grabbed the edge of the massive mahogany table. With impossible strength, she flipped it. The table crashed onto its side, becoming an instant barrier. Elena tucked Lily behind it, covering the child's body with her own as bullets tore through the dining room. Wood splintered. Wine bottles exploded into red mist. The woman in diamonds was screaming. The blonde one had thrown herself under her chair. Enzo hit the ground, rolled, and came up with his gun drawn. He fired 3 shots through the broken window, then glanced back. His daughter was completely hidden behind the overturned table, wrapped in Elena's arms. The maid's eyes were sharp, alert, nothing like the quiet, subservient woman who had served wine minutes ago. "Stay down," Elena shouted at Lily, her voice commanding. "Don't move, baby. Don't look." More gunfire. Enzo's guards returned fire from the entryway. One went down, clutching his shoulder. The other kept shooting, backing toward the hallway. Through the chaos, Enzo's eyes locked with Elena's. And in that instant, he saw something that made his blood run cold. She wasn't scared. She was calculating. Her eyes swept the room, exits, angles, threats, with the precision of someone who had done this before. Many times before. "Who the hell are you?" Enzo mouthed. But there was no time for answers. A grenade clattered through the broken window, rolling across the glass-covered floor. "Move!"
Elena screamed.
She grabbed Lily and ran. Not toward the front door, where Enzo's men were fighting. Not toward the main hallway, where the other guests had fled. Instead, she sprinted straight toward the back wall, toward what looked like a solid panel of oak wood. She slammed her palm against a decorative carving. The panel clicked and swung inward.
A hidden passage.
Elena disappeared into the darkness with his daughter. The grenade exploded behind them, and the world turned to fire and smoke. Enzo Romano, a man who thought he knew every secret in his own house, stood frozen in shock. His maid, his quiet, invisible maid, had just saved his daughter's life. And she had used a passage that wasn't supposed to exist. The passage was narrow and pitch black. Elena's shoulder scraped against rough stone as she ran, one arm wrapped around Lily's trembling body, her other hand trailing along the wall for guidance. "I'm scared," Lily whimpered against her chest. "I know, sweetheart. Keep your eyes closed. We're almost out." Behind them, muffled explosions shook dust from the ceiling. Elena quickened her pace, her breathing controlled despite the sprint. She had memorized this tunnel years ago, 37 steps forward, then a sharp left, then 20 more to the exit. 35, 36, 37. She turned left without slowing. "How do you know where to go?" Lily's voice was small but curious, even through her fear. Elena didn't answer. She counted silently.
18.
19.
20.
Her hand found the iron handle. She shoved hard, and the door burst open into the night. Rain hit them like a wall. Cold, heavy drops soaked through Elena's uniform in seconds. The sky was black except for brief flashes of lightning that illuminated the sprawling orchard behind the Romano estate. Apple trees stretched in neat rows, their branches thrashing in the wind. "Hold tight," Elena commanded. She adjusted Lily on her hip and ran. The mud sucked at her shoes with each step. Rain poured down her face, into her eyes, making it hard to see. But she knew exactly where she was going. Past the first row of trees, diagonal through the second, straight through the third toward the old stone wall that marked the property's edge. Thunder cracked overhead, so loud that Lily screamed. It's okay. Just noise. Elena shouted over the storm. Behind them, back at the villa, gunfire continued. Bright muzzle flashes lit up the windows like deadly fireworks. Men were shouting. Glass was still breaking. Elena risked a glance back. Through the rain and darkness, she could see figures moving on the villa's second-floor balcony. One of them was tall, broad-shouldered, unmistakable. Enzo. He was looking straight at them. For a moment, their eyes met across 100 yards of storm and chaos. Elena saw his expression shift, from confusion to realization to something she couldn't quite name. Then he was moving, shouting orders, pointing. His remaining guards poured out of the side entrance, weapons raised, fanning out toward the orchard. But they weren't shooting at her. They were covering her escape. Elena's mind raced. He thinks I'm running away to protect her. He doesn't understand yet. A bullet whizzed past her head, not from Enzo's men, but from somewhere behind them, deeper in the orchard. The attackers had circled around. Down, Elena dropped into the mud, using her body to cushion Lily's fall. They rolled behind a thick apple tree trunk just as 3 more shots tore through the space where they'd been standing. Bark exploded above them. Splinters rained down. Lily was crying now, full sobbing breaths. Elena held her tight, one hand cradling the girl's head against her chest, the other reaching down to her ankle. She pulled a small knife from a hidden sheath strapped above her shoe. "Close your eyes, baby," she whispered, "and count to 10. Can you do that for me?" I can't." "Yes, you can. You're so brave."
Count for me.
"Start now."
A 1.
2-inch. Elena peered around the tree trunk. 2 men were advancing through the rain, moving tactically, weapons raised. They wore black tactical gear, not Mafia soldiers. Professional contractors. This wasn't a random hit. This was planned.
3.
4-inch. The first man was 20 feet away. The second hung back, providing cover.
Elena waited.
Her pulse was steady. Her hands didn't shake.
5.
6-inch. 15 feet. 7. 10 feet.
8.
The man rounded the tree. Elena moved like liquid lightning. She surged upward, driving the knife into his thigh, the femoral artery. He gasped and stumbled. She caught his weapon as it fell, spun it around, and fired twice at the second man. Both shots hit center mass. He went down hard.
9.
Good girl. Elena dropped the gun and picked up Lily again, running before the first man even hit the ground. Keep counting. Count to 20 this time. She could hear Enzo's guards closing in from behind, shouting in Italian. They'd seen the exchange. They knew now she wasn't just running, she was fighting. The stone wall appeared through the rain. Elena vaulted over it one-handed, landing in a crouch on the other side. An old dirt road stretched into the darkness. And there, hidden beneath a camouflage tarp between 2 trees, was a motorcycle. Elena pulled the tarp away with her free hand and straddled the bike, settling Lily in front of her. "Hold the handles," she instructed. "Don't let go." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe." The engine roared to life. Elena kicked off just as Enzo's guards reached the wall. She heard him shouting, not to shoot, but to follow. The motorcycle's headlight cut through the rain as they sped down the dirt road. Lily was shaking uncontrollably, but she held on tight. "You knew," the little girl said quietly. "You knew this would happen." Elena's jaw tightened.
No, sweetheart.
"I hoped it never would. But you were ready." "Smart girl. Too smart." "Yes," Elena admitted. "I was ready." They rode through the storm in silence, leaving the burning villa and the sound of gunfire behind. But Elena knew this wasn't over. Enzo Romano had seen too much. He would have questions. And she would have to answer them. Or die trying. The safe house appeared through the rain like a ghost from another era, a small stone cottage with a sagging roof and windows dark as empty eyes. Elena killed the motorcycle's engine 50 yards out and coasted the rest of the way in silence. Why are we stopping? Lily whispered. We're here. Stay quiet. Elena dismounted and lifted Lily off the bike, setting her down gently. The rain had lessened to a steady drizzle, but both of them were soaked through. Lily's yellow dress clung to her small frame, and she was shivering violently. Elena approached the cottage carefully, one hand on Lily's shoulder, her eyes scanning the darkness.
No lights.
No movement. No tire tracks in the muddy driveway except the ones they'd just made. Good. She tried the door.
Locked.
She felt along the top of the frame until her fingers found a key thick with rust and spider webs. It took 3 tries to get the lock to turn. The door groaned open. Inside, the air smelled of dust and abandonment. Elena found a battery-powered lantern on a shelf near the entrance, exactly where it had been placed 4 years ago. She clicked it on, and weak yellow light filled the single room. A cot with a bare mattress. A small table with 2 chairs. A sink with a hand pump. A stone fireplace full of old ashes. Everything covered in a fine layer of neglect. Is this your house? Lily asked, her teeth chattering.
No.
It's nobody's house anymore. Elena guided her to the cot and knelt down, examining the girl's hands. They were scraped raw from the fall in the orchard, small traces of blood mixing with mud. Let me see. She found a first aid kit in a metal cabinet, the seals still intact and used. Working quickly, she cleaned Lily's palms with antiseptic wipes. The girl winced but didn't cry. You're very brave, Elena said softly. Papa says Romano women don't cry. Your papa's wrong. Crying doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Lily looked up at her with those impossibly green eyes. You didn't cry. When the bad men came. Elena paused, bandage in hand. I've had practice being scared. Were you scared? Terrified. You didn't look scared. That's the practice part. Elena finished wrapping the small hands and stood. Stay here. I'm going to check the perimeter.
No.
Lily grabbed her arm. Don't leave me. The fear in the child's voice was so raw, so desperate, that Elena felt something crack in her chest. She sat down on the cot and pulled Lily close. Okay. I won't go anywhere. I promise. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to rain patter against the roof. Then Elena began to hum, low and soft, a melody without words. After a few bars, the humming became singing. Dormi, dormi, bel bambin. It was an old Italian lullaby. Her grandmother had sung it to her once, a lifetime ago. The words came back as if they'd been waiting in her throat all these years. Lily's trembling began to ease. Her breathing slowed. Within minutes, her head was heavy against Elena's shoulder, her small body finally relaxing into sleep. Elena held her, still singing quietly, until she was certain the girl wouldn't wake. That's when she heard it. The rumble of vehicles approaching. Elena's hand moved instinctively to her empty ankle sheath. She'd left the knife behind. Stupid. She had no weapons, no backup plan, and a sleeping 7-year-old in her arms. Car doors slammed outside. Footsteps. Multiple people. She gently laid Lily on the cot and moved to the window, pressing herself against the wall. Through the dirty glass, she could see 3 black SUVs parked in a semicircle. Men in suits were exiting, weapons drawn. Then one figure emerged that made her blood run cold.
Enzo Romano.
He walked straight toward the cottage door, rainwater streaming off his expensive suit. His face was unreadable, no anger, no relief, just cold calculation. The door crashed open. Enzo filled the doorway, backlit by headlights, his gun already drawn and pointed directly at Elena's chest. Behind him, an older man appeared, silver-haired, wire-rimmed glasses, carrying a leather folder. His consigliere.
Marco Castellano.
Step away from my daughter, Enzo said quietly. Elena didn't move. She's sleeping. I said step away. If you fire that gun, you'll wake her. She's had enough trauma for one night. Something flickered in Enzo's eyes. Surprise at being challenged, maybe, or grudging respect. He lowered the weapon slightly, but didn't holster it. Marco stepped forward, opening the folder.
Elena Russo.
Age 29. Employed as household staff for 3 years, he looked up, his expression cold. Except Elena Russo doesn't exist. The woman in the employment photo is real. She's a 62-year-old grandmother in Naples. The birth certificate is forged. The references are fabricated. He closed the folder with a snap. So, I'll ask the question Mr. Romano is too controlled to scream. Who the hell are you?
Elena met Enzo's gaze steadily.
My real name is Elena Marchetti. I was sent here 5 years ago by Sentinel Security Network, a private protection firm that your late wife hired before she died. Enzo's expression didn't change, but his knuckles whitened around the gun. My wife never mentioned any protection firm. She wouldn't have. That was the point. I was embedded to watch over Lily, to be a ghost in your house, invisible until needed. My contract ended 3 years ago, when Sentinel dissolved. Then why are you still here?
Marco demanded.
Elena looked at the sleeping child on the cot. Because she reminded me of my daughter. The one I lost 6 years ago. She was 7. Same age as Lily. Her voice cracked, just barely. I had nothing else. So I stayed. The room fell silent except for the rain and Lily's soft breathing. Enzo finally holstered his gun. But the look in his eyes was far from trusting. That doesn't explain how you knew about the passage, he said slowly. Or where the safe house is. Or why you move like a trained operative. Elena smiled without humor. Because I was trained to find exits, sir. It's what I do. It's all I've ever done. Then prove it, Enzo said coldly. Tell me who attacked us tonight. I don't know. Wrong answer. I don't know, Elena repeated. But they weren't trying to kill you. If they were, you'd already be dead. They wanted Lily. This was a kidnapping attempt. Marco and Enzo exchanged glances. How do you know? Marco asked. Because, Elena said quietly, they had tranquilizer darts loaded in secondary weapons. I saw them. They came for your daughter, Mr. Romano. And they'll come again. Dawn broke gray and cold over the safe house. Elena sat in one of the wooden chairs, watching Lily sleep, while Enzo stood by the window with his arms crossed. He hadn't said a word in 3 hours. Neither had she. Marco had left at midnight to make calls and run deeper background checks. Now he returned, his expensive shoes caked in mud, carrying a laptop and several manila envelopes. You need to see this, Marco said, setting the laptop on the table. Enzo moved closer, his shadow falling across the screen. Elena remained seated, her face carefully blank. Marco opened the first file. Sentinel Security Network. Officially dissolved in 2022, but the operation was already compromised a year earlier. Half their operatives were dirty, selling information to the highest bidder. The company collapsed from within. He looked at Elena. You said Maria hired them?
Elena nodded.
6 months before she died. She was worried about threats from the Calabrese family. She wanted someone watching Lily who wasn't part of your organization, someone who couldn't be bought or turned. Enzo's jaw tightened at the mention of his late wife. Maria told me everything. She wouldn't have kept this from me. She was protecting you, Elena said quietly. If you knew about the security network, you'd have vetted every operative, run background checks, made it official. That would have defeated the purpose. I was meant to be invisible. And yet here you are, Enzo said coldly. Very visible. Marco clicked to another file. A photo appeared, Elena, but younger, wearing military fatigues, standing with a group of soldiers. This is you. Italian Special Forces, 2015 to 2018. Specialist in close protection and tactical extraction. Honorable discharge, he paused. But there's a redacted section in your file. 18 months that are completely blacked out. Elena said nothing. What happened in those 18 months? Enzo asked. Silence. Answer him, Marco pressed. Elena's eyes flickered to Lily's sleeping form. I worked private contracts, places where governments couldn't officially operate. I extracted high-value targets from hostile territory. Politicians' children.
Businessmen.
Witnesses, her voice dropped. I was good at it. And your daughter? Enzo asked, his tone slightly softer. Elena's hands clenched. Her name was Sofia. Her father was a target I was protecting, a prosecutor going after a human trafficking ring in Albania. They got to him, anyway. Set a bomb in our apartment. He was already dead when it went off. She took a shaky breath. Sofia was sleeping in the next room. She was 7 years old. The room fell silent except for the hum of the laptop. That's when you joined Sentinel, Marco said, checking his notes. That's when I stopped caring whether I lived or died, Elena corrected. Sentinel gave me purpose. Protecting other people's children became easier than remembering I couldn't protect my own. Enzo studied her face for a long moment, and when Sentinel collapsed, I should have left. I had no legal obligation to stay. Elena looked at Lily again. But she started calling me Lena instead of Miss Elena. She'd sneak into the kitchen and help me make breakfast. She drew pictures for me. Her voice cracked. She made me feel human again. Marco closed the laptop with a sharp snap. That's a touching story. It doesn't explain how you knew about the secret passage that was built by Enzo's grandfather in 1967. The blueprints were destroyed decades ago. Only 3 people knew it existed. Enzo, his father, and his wife, all of whom are now dead except him. Elena met his gaze steadily. 4 people knew. Maria showed me. 2 months before she died, she brought me into her study late at night. She was terrified, paranoid. She said if anything ever happened, if Lily was ever in danger, I needed to be able to get her out. She made me memorize the passage, the exits, 3 different escape routes. Why would she do that? Enzo's voice was sharp. Why would she trust a stranger over her own husband? Because she was dying, Elena said softly. And she knew it. The cancer had already spread to her brain. She was having episodes, paranoid delusions that someone was going to take Lily. Her doctors called it stress-induced psychosis, but what if it wasn't? She leaned forward. What if she knew something? Heard something? What if she was right to be paranoid? Enzo's face went pale. Marco looked between them. Are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that last night's attack wasn't random, Elena interrupted. The timing was too perfect. 4 strange women in the house, your security protocol disrupted, Lily in one location for hours. Someone knew exactly when and how to strike. Enzo turned to the window, his fists clenched. The dinner was arranged 3 weeks ago. I personally vetted each woman. They have no connection to our enemies. Then it wasn't one of them, Elena said. It was someone who knew about the dinner. Someone inside your organization.
Impossible.
My men are loyal. Someone talked, Elena said flatly. Or someone in your inner circle is working with your enemies. Marco's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened. Enzo, you need to hear this. He put the phone on speaker. A distorted voice filled the room. Mr. Romano, by now you've realized we weren't trying to kill you last night. We want the girl. You have 72 hours to deliver her to the old Moretti warehouse on the docks, or we'll come take her ourselves. And next time, your maid won't be fast enough. The line went dead. Lily stirred on the cot, her small voice cutting through the tension. Lena? Elena was at her side instantly. I'm here, sweetheart. The little girl sat up, rubbing her eyes. Then she saw her father standing by the window, and her face lit up.
Papa.
Enzo turned, and for the first time since Elena had known him, his mask cracked. He crossed the room and pulled his daughter into his arms, holding her so tightly that she squeaked. I'm sorry, he whispered into her hair. I'm so sorry, Piccolina. Over Lily's head, his eyes met Elena's. And in that look was an unspoken understanding. Whatever else Elena Marchetti was, spy, soldier, stranger, she had done what she promised. She had kept his daughter alive. Now they just had to keep her that way. The convoy moved through the city at dawn, 3 black SUVs in tight formation, engines rumbling low. Enzo sat in the middle vehicle with Lily curled against his side. Elena rode in front, her eyes constantly scanning the streets. "We should have stayed at the safe house," Marco said from the driver's seat. "For how long?" Enzo replied. 3 days? 3 months? We can't hide forever. I need to get back to the city, find out who's behind this, and put Lily in more danger. I'm taking her to the secured apartment downtown. Steel doors, panic room, 6 guards. She'll be safer there than in some abandoned cottage. Elena turned in her seat. The apartment is predictable. They'll expect that. Then what do you suggest? Enzo's tone was sharp. We can't keep running. No, Elena agreed. But we can be smarter about the route. Take via Colombo through the old district. Narrow streets, multiple turns. Harder to set up an ambush. Enzo studied her face. You think they're waiting for us? I think they've been tracking us since we left. As if summoned by her words, Marco's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and cursed in Italian. 2 vehicles following us. Black sedans, no plates. They picked us up 4 blocks ago. Enzo's hand moved to his jacket. How many men? Unknown. But they're staying back, keeping distance. They're hurting us, Elena said quietly, pushing us toward a kill zone. Lily whimpered and pressed closer to her father.
Papa.
It's okay, Piccolina. Enzo kissed the top of her head, but his eyes were ice cold. Marco, change route.
Now.
The convoy veered right, tires squealing. They plunged into the old city, a maze of narrow alleys and crumbling buildings that dated back centuries. Morning light barely penetrated here, leaving everything in perpetual shadow. The black sedans followed. They're not backing off, Marco reported. They're accelerating. Get us to the Via Santo. There's a bottleneck there. If they want us, they'll have to commit. Elena shook her head. That's exactly what they want. You'll be trapped. Then we'll fight. With Lily in the car? Enzo's jaw clenched. He looked down at his daughter's terrified face, then back at Elena. What's your plan? Let me out. I'll lead them away. That's suicide. It's distraction. You get Lily to safety, I buy you time. No, Lily said suddenly, her small voice cutting through the tension. Don't go, Lena. Please. Elena turned and reached back, squeezing the girl's hand. I'll be fine, sweetheart. I promise. You promised you wouldn't leave. Before Elena could answer, the rear windshield exploded. Glass showered the interior as bullets punched through the vehicle. Marco swerved violently, slamming into a stone wall. The airbags deployed with a bang.
Out.
Everyone out. Enzo kicked open his door, pulling Lily with him. They tumbled onto the cobblestones as more gunfire erupted. Elena rolled out the passenger side, her head ringing from the impact. She could see the 2 sedans screeching to a stop 50 yards back. Doors opening. Armed men emerging, 4, 5, 6 of them. Professional. Coordinated.
Trained.
The alley, Marco shouted, already limping toward a narrow passage between 2 buildings. Enzo scooped Lily into his arms and ran. Elena followed, providing rear cover, even though she had no weapon. Behind them, the attackers advanced with tactical precision. The alley was barely wide enough for 2 people side by side. Trash bins overflowed with rotting garbage. Graffiti covered every surface. It twisted left, then right, then opened into a small courtyard surrounded by 5-story buildings with laundry hanging from rusty balconies.
Dead end.
Brilliant plan, Marco. Enzo Growled. There. Elena pointed to a fire escape ladder hanging 10 feet off the ground. Boost me up. They'll be here in seconds. Just do it. Enzo handed Lily to Marco and laced his fingers together. Elena stepped into his hands, and he heaved her upward. She caught the ladder, pulled herself up, then leaned down. Lily next. Marco lifted the girl. Elena caught her and started climbing, moving fast. Enzo and Marco followed just as the first attacker entered the courtyard. Gunfire echoed off the stone walls. Enzo drew his weapon and returned fire, without stopping his climb. One attacker went down. Another ducked behind a trash bin. They reached the first landing. Elena kicked open a window and pushed Lily through into someone's apartment. An elderly woman screamed and ran. They scrambled after her, racing through the small flat toward the door. "Keep moving," Enzo barked. They burst into the hallway, down a flight of stairs, through another door, and found themselves in a different alley, this one opening onto a busy street. Morning traffic. Pedestrians. Normal life. Elena grabbed Enzo's arm. "We split up. They can't follow all of us."
No.
"Look at me," her eyes were fierce. "I know what I'm doing. Take Lily left toward the market. Lose yourselves in the crowd. I'll go right and draw them off. They'll kill you. They'll try." Enzo stared at her, his mind clearly racing through scenarios, calculating odds. Then he did something that surprised her. He grabbed her shoulder and pulled her close. "If you die protecting my daughter, I'll never forgive you. Then I'd better not die." She took off running before he could argue. Behind her, she heard Lily screaming her name, but she didn't look back. She couldn't. Elena sprinted down the street, deliberately making herself visible. Sure enough, she heard shouts behind her. Footsteps pounding. They'd taken the bait. She turned into another alley, this one she knew. She'd mapped every street in this district years ago, preparing for a moment exactly like this. Two attackers rounded the corner behind her. Elena stopped running. She picked up a piece of broken pipe from the ground and turned to face them. One had a gun. The other had a knife. She smiled. "Your mistake," she said quietly, "was following me alone." The first one raised his weapon. Elena moved. She was a blur of motion. The pipe cracked across his wrist, sending the gun clattering. She spun, driving her elbow into his throat.
He dropped, gasping.
The second attacker lunged with a knife. Elena caught his arm, twisted, and used his momentum to slam him face first into the brick wall. He crumpled. She picked up the dropped gun, checked the magazine, and kept moving. Behind her, more footsteps. More pursuers. But Enzo and Lily were gone, vanished into the morning crowd.
Safe. For now.
Elena disappeared into the shadows, leading the hunters away from their prey. It was what she did best. The Romano mansion felt like a mausoleum. 3 days had passed since the attack in the alley. 3 days since Elena had vanished into the city streets, drawing the killers away. 3 days since anyone had seen her. Lily sat at the breakfast table, staring at her untouched eggs. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She hadn't slept properly since that morning. "Eat, Piccolina," Enzo said gently. "I'm not hungry. You need to eat something." "Where's Lena?" Enzo's jaw tightened. It was the same question she'd asked every hour. "I told you she's
away."
"She's safe." "You're lying." Lily's green eyes, so much like her mother's, fixed on him with unsettling clarity. "You don't know where she is." He had no answer for that. Marco entered the dining room, phone in hand. "The advisors are here. They're waiting in your study." Enzo stood, grateful for the interruption. "Stay with her," he told the guard stationed at the door. "I don't want him," Lily said quietly. "I want Lena." The words hit harder than any bullet. In the study, 5 men in expensive suits sat around the conference table, Enzo's senior advisors, the backbone of his organization. They stood when he entered, their faces grave. "We need to discuss the security breach," said Salvatore, the oldest of them. White-haired, sharp-eyed, loyal for 30 years. "And the Elena situation." "There is no situation," Enzo replied, pouring himself a drink. "She saved my daughter's life. Twice." "She's a security risk," another advisor interjected. "A trained operative with false credentials who infiltrated your household. She could have been gathering intelligence for years." "For who?" "She was hired by my wife." "So she claims," Salvatore said carefully. "But we have no proof." "Maria is dead." Sentinel security is dissolved. For all we know, this woman is working for the Calabrese family. Or worse. Marco set his laptop on the table. I've been digging deeper. Elena Marchetti, her real name, disappeared from all official records 6 months after her daughter died. No tax returns, no bank accounts, no digital footprint. It's like she became a ghost. That's what deep cover operatives do, Enzo said. Or what people do when they don't want to be found, Salvatore countered. Sir, with respect, you're letting emotion cloud your judgment. This woman has compromised your security, knows your secrets, and has now vanished. She could be anywhere, talking to anyone. She's protecting my daughter. Is she? Or is she the reason your daughter needs protecting in the first place? The accusation hung in the air like poison. Enzo's hand tightened around his glass. Explain. The attack started after Elena arrived, Salvatore said. The dinner party, the convoy ambush, both happened while she was present. What if she's the leak? What if she's been feeding information to your enemies? Then why risk her life to save Lily? To maintain her cover? To ensure she stays close to the target? Enzo slammed his glass down. Enough. Elena Marchetti is not the enemy. Then where is she? Marco asked quietly. 3 days, Enzo. No contact, no sighting. If she's on our side, why hasn't she checked in? The question had been eating at him too. The meeting dragged on for another hour. The consensus was clear. Fire Elena immediately if she returned. Remove her from the property. Increase security through traditional channels. Enzo dismissed them all without committing to anything. That evening, he couldn't sleep. He paced his bedroom, his mind churning. Around midnight, he made a decision. He left the mansion alone, taking an unmarked car. The family cemetery was 20 minutes outside the city, perched on a hillside overlooking the sea. Enzo's father was buried there, his grandparents, and Maria. He parked outside the iron gates and walked in, following the familiar path through marble headstones and weeping angels. The moon was bright enough to see by. Maria's grave was near the back, beneath an old oak tree. Fresh flowers sat in the vase. White roses, her favorite. Enzo frowned. He hadn't brought flowers in weeks. Neither had Lily. He heard a sound behind him and spun, hand moving to his weapon. Elena stepped out from behind a monument, her hands raised. Don't shoot. She looked rough, bruised, exhausted, her clothes torn and dirty. But she was alive. How long have you been here? Enzo asked. About an hour. I saw your car arrive. Why didn't you come to me? Elena moved past him to Maria's grave and knelt down, touching the flowers gently. Because I needed to talk to her first, she looked up at the headstone. I promised her I'd keep Lily safe. I come here, sometimes too.
To report in, I suppose.
To tell her that her daughter is okay. Enzo stared at this woman kneeling before his wife's grave, this stranger who had lived in his house for 3 years without him truly seeing her. My advisors think you're the leak, he said quietly. They think you're working for my enemies. I know. I would think the same thing. Are you? Elena stood slowly, meeting his eyes.
No.
I swear on my daughter's memory, I am not your enemy, Enzo Romano. The use of his first name startled him. Then help me understand, he said. The attacks, the timing, the precision. Someone inside my organization is feeding information. If it's not you, then who? I don't know. But I've been watching, listening. Whoever it is, they're close to you. Close enough to know your schedule, your routines, your vulnerabilities. Everyone close to me has been loyal for years. Then someone bought their loyalty, Elena paused. Or someone is being blackmailed. Enzo's phone buzzed. Marco's name flashed on the screen. He answered. What? Marco's voice was panicked. Enzo, get back here now. Lily, she's gone. Someone took her from her bedroom. The guard is dead. The phone slipped from Enzo's hand. Elena caught it, listened to Marco's frantic voice, then looked at Enzo. His face had gone white, his hands shaking. They have her, he whispered. They have my daughter. Elena's expression hardened into something terrible and cold. Then we get her back.
How?
We don't even know where. The docks. The message said the Moretti warehouse. That's where they'll take her. That was 3 days ago. They could be anywhere by now. No. Elena was already moving toward the car. They wanted you to deliver her. You didn't. So they came and took her themselves. But they'll still go to the rendezvous point. It's isolated, defensible. Perfect for an exchange, or she didn't finish the sentence. Enzo ran after her. Exchange for what? Elena opened the driver's door and slid in, waiting for him to get in the passenger side.
For you.
They've always wanted you. Lily was just the bait. She started the engine. There's something else you should know, she said as they roared out of the cemetery. I found 2 of the attackers from the alley. Before they died, they talked. And they were hired by someone called the Architect. That name mean anything to you? Enzo's blood went cold.
Yes.
He was my mentor. He taught me everything about this business before I took over from my father. He paused. I thought he retired years ago to Sicily. Apparently not. And apparently, he wants his empire back. The car screamed through the night toward the docks.
Toward Lily.
Toward a final reckoning. The Moretti warehouse loomed against the night sky like a rusted giant. Waves crashed against the docks below, sending salt spray into the air. A single light flickered in an upper window, the only sign of life in the abandoned building. Enzo killed the engine 2 blocks away. Elena was already checking the gun she'd taken from the cemetery guard. His, actually. She'd retrieved it while he'd been frozen in shock. We go in quiet, she said. No hero weeks. That's my daughter in there. Which is exactly why you need to think clearly. Elena met his eyes. They want you angry. They want you reckless. Don't give them what they want. Enzo took a breath, forcing control back into his body. She was right. She was always right. They moved through the shadows toward the warehouse. The docks were eerily quiet, too quiet. No workers, no security, no witnesses. The Architect had bought off everyone or scared them away. Elena held up a fist. They stopped. She pointed to the roofline. 2 sentries, barely visible against the dark sky. Then she pointed to the main entrance. 1 guard, trying to look casual but clearly alert. 3 outside, she whispered. Probably 6 to 8 inside. Maybe more. How do we get past them? Elena smiled without humor. We don't. We go through the water. She led him around the building to where the warehouse extended over the dock on old pilings. The tide was high, the space beneath the structure just barely navigable. You can't be serious, Enzo said. Can you swim? I'm wearing a $1,000 suit. Then you better not drown in it. Elena lowered herself into the cold water without another word. Enzo cursed under his breath and followed. The water was freezing, thick with oil and debris. They swam beneath the warehouse, finding a maintenance hatch that opened into the lower level. Elena pried it open with her knife. The water had rusted the lock years ago. They pulled themselves up into darkness. Inside, the warehouse smelled of rotting fish and old machinery. Water dripped from their clothes as they moved through corridors of stacked crates and broken equipment. Elena moved like a ghost, each step silent and precise. Enzo followed, his expensive shoes squeaking embarrassingly. Voices echoed from above. Men talking, laughing. And then a sound that made Enzo's heart stop.
Lily. Crying.
He started forward, but Elena grabbed his arm, shaking her head firmly.
Wait.
They crept up a metal staircase to the 2nd floor. Through a broken window, they could see into the main floor of the warehouse. Lily sat on a chair in the center of the space, her hands zip-tied behind her back. Her yellow dress was dirty and torn. Tears streamed down her face, but she wasn't making a sound anymore, just silent, terrified crying. 6 men surrounded her, all armed. And standing before her, leaning on a cane, was an old man in an elegant suit. The Architect. Enzo barely recognized him. The man had aged 20 years, gaunt, skeletal, his eyes sunken but still sharp as glass. "Your father is coming, child," the architect said in a wheezing voice. "He can't help himself. He'll sacrifice everything for you. That's his weakness. That's always been his weakness." "My papa will kill you," Lily said, her voice small but defiant. The old man laughed, a wet, rattling sound. "Your papa is already dead. He just doesn't know it yet." Elena touched Enzo's shoulder, drawing his attention. She made hand signals. "You left me, right? On my count." Enzo nodded. Elena held up 3 fingers.
2, 1.
They burst through the door simultaneously. Enzo came in firing. 2 guards went down immediately. The others scattered, returning fire. Bullets tore through the air, sparking off metal surfaces. Elena moved like liquid death. She slid beneath the spray of bullets, came up behind a guard, and snapped his neck before he could turn. Another guard raised his weapon. She threw her knife, catching him in the throat. The architect grabbed Lily, pressing a gun to her temple. "Stop." Everyone froze. Enzo stood 15 feet away, his weapon trained on the old man's head. But he couldn't shoot, not with Lily that close. "There he is," the architect wheezed. "The great Enzo Romano. You took everything from me. My organization, my respect, my legacy. All because your father chose you over me." "Let her go," Enzo said quietly. "This is between us.
No.
This is about teaching you what real loss feels like." The old man's finger tightened on the trigger. Elena moved. She was 10 feet away, too far to reach him. But she didn't try to. Instead, she grabbed a chain hanging from the ceiling, part of the old loading mechanism, and swung. Her body arced through the air like a pendulum. The architect's gun swung toward her. He fired. The bullet caught Elena in the shoulder, spinning her. But her momentum carried her forward. Her feet connected with the architect's chest like a battering ram. He flew backward, releasing Lily. The little girl tumbled away, scrambling across the floor. Enzo lunged forward, scooping his daughter into his arms. Behind him, Elena hit the ground hard and didn't move. The architect's remaining guards opened fire. Enzo ran, shielding Lily with his body, bullets whizzing past his head. He dove behind a stack of crates just as the wood exploded above him.
"Anna."
Lily screamed. Enzo looked back. Elena was lying in a spreading pool of blood, her eyes closed. The architect stood over her, raising his gun for the final shot. Something primal roared to life in Enzo's chest. He set Lily down behind the crates. "Stay here. Don't move." Then he stood and walked into the open, firing. His first shot hit the architect in the knee. The old man collapsed. His second shot took out the guard on the left. His third hit the guard on the right. He moved forward like an avenging angel, each shot precise and lethal.
No wasted bullets. No hesitation.
When his gun clicked empty, 4 men lay dead. Only the architect remained, crawling across the floor toward his dropped weapon. Enzo reached him first. He kicked the gun away and knelt down, pressing his knee into the old man's chest. "You wanted to teach me about loss?" Enzo's voice was ice. "Let me teach you about consequences." The architect laughed, blood bubbling from his lips. "Go ahead.
Kill me.
I'm already dying."
Cancer.
6 months left, he coughed. "I just wanted to take you down. With me." "You failed." "Did I?" The old man's eyes flickered toward Elena's motionless body.
She's dead.
Your daughter watched her die. That trauma will never leave her. I may not have killed you, Enzo, but I killed your peace. Forever. Enzo's finger tightened on the trigger. Papa, don't. Lily's voice cut through his rage. She was standing now, tears streaming down her face.
Please.
No more killing. Please. Enzo looked at his daughter, at the fear and pain in her eyes. He lowered the gun. You're right, he said to the architect. You're already dead, he stood. And I'm going to let you rot in prison for however many months you have left. He walked away, leaving the old man wheezing on the floor. He ran to Elena. She was still breathing barely. The bullet had torn through her shoulder, missing her heart by inches. Lena! Lily scrambled over, grabbing the woman's hand. Wake up. Please wake up. Elena's eyes fluttered open. She looked at Lily and smiled weakly.
Hey.
Sweetheart. You're bleeding. I've had worse, she winced. Your papa. He's okay. I'm here, Enzo said, pressing his jacket against her wound. Don't talk. Save your strength. Sirens wailed in the distance. Marco had clearly called for backup. Elena's hand found Enzo's. Keep her safe, she whispered. That's all. That matters. You're not dying, Enzo said fiercely. You hear me? You're not leaving us. Us. Elena's smile widened slightly. I like the sound of that. Then her eyes closed, and she went limp. 6 weeks later, the seaside recovery home sat on a cliff overlooking the Mediterranean, its white walls bright against the blue sky. Seagulls circled overhead, their calls mixing with the sound of waves crashing against rocks below. Inside, Elena sat in a wheelchair on a wide terrace, a blanket across her lap despite the warm sun. Her left arm was still in a sling, but the color had returned to her face. She was reading a book or pretending to. Mostly she was watching the sea. The door behind her opened. Lena. Lily came running out, her curls bouncing, wearing a new dress, light blue this time, with yellow sunflowers. She crashed into Elena's lap with the confidence of a child who knew she'd be caught. Careful, Piccolina, Elena said with a laugh, wrapping her good arm around the girl. I'm still a bit broken. The doctor said you're getting better every day. The doctor talks too much. Lily giggled and snuggled closer. I drew you something. She pulled a folded paper from her pocket and opened it carefully. It was a crayon drawing, 3 figures holding hands on a beach. A tall man in black, a little girl in a yellow dress, and a woman with dark hair. Above them, a sun with a smiley face. At the bottom, in careful letters, my family. Elena's throat tightened. It's beautiful. That's you. Lily pointed to the dark-haired figure. And that's Papa. And that's me. We're all together. I see that. Are we? A family, I mean. Elena looked at the little girl's hopeful face, so much like Sophia's, yet completely her own. What do you think? I think yes. But Papa hasn't asked you yet. Ask me what? To stay forever. Before Elena could respond, Enzo appeared in the doorway. He wore casual clothes, jeans, and a white shirt, no tie. Elena had never seen him so relaxed. Lily, go inside for a moment, he said gently. I need to talk to Elena alone. Are you going to ask her? Lily. Okay. She kissed Elena's cheek and skipped inside, leaving the 2 adults alone. Enzo walked to the terrace railing, looking out at the sea. For a long moment he said nothing. The architect died last week, he finally said. In prison, just like I promised. Cancer took him before any trial could happen. Good, Elena said simply. His organization is scattered. Most of his men are dead or arrested. The threat to Lily is over, he turned to face her. You completed your mission. She's safe now. Elena's heart sank. She knew what was coming. So I'm no longer needed. That's not what I said. But it's what you mean. The danger is over. Time for the ghost operative to disappear again. Enzo crossed the terrace and knelt beside her wheelchair, his dark eyes meeting hers. I've spent 6 weeks thinking about what happened.
About you.
About everything you've sacrificed. I don't need your gratitude. I'm not offering gratitude. He took her hand carefully, mindful of her injuries. I'm offering something else. Something I thought I'd never offer anyone after Maria died. Elena's breath caught. These past 6 weeks, Lily has asked about you every single day. Multiple times a day. When can we visit Lena? Is Lena okay? When is Lena coming home? He smiled slightly. She doesn't ask about the mansion. She asks when you're coming home. As if wherever you are, that's where home is. Tears pricked Elena's eyes. Enzo. Let me finish. He squeezed her hand gently. I thought the dinner party would solve my problem. I'd choose a suitable wife, give Lily a new mother, and move on. But none of those women loved her. They loved what being a Romano could give them: power, money, status. He paused. You loved her when you had nothing to gain. You protected her when it could have gotten you killed. You stayed when you could have left. Because she reminded me of... I know. Of Sophia. I know. His voice was soft. But it's more than that now, isn't it? You don't just see Sophia when you look at Lily. You see Lily. And she sees you. Not as a substitute for her mother, but as someone new. Someone who chose her. Elena couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down her face now. I'm not asking you to replace Maria, Enzo continued. I'm not asking for a convenient arrangement or a marriage of practicality. He stood and moved behind her wheelchair, beginning to push it slowly along the terrace. I'm asking if you want to stay. Not as a maid. Not as security. But as family. I don't know how to be family anymore, Elena whispered. I've been alone so long. So have we. Enzo stopped the wheelchair at the edge of the terrace, where the view opened up to endless blue. But maybe we can figure it out together. The terrace door burst open and Lily ran out again, unable to contain herself. Did you ask her? Did she say yes? Enzo laughed, a real laugh, unguarded and warm. I'm still asking. Lily ran to Elena and grabbed her good hand. Please say yes, Lena.
Please.
I don't want anyone else. I choose you. I chose you from the beginning. Elena looked at this little girl who had somehow healed parts of her she thought were dead forever. Then she looked up at Enzo, standing behind her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. This broken, dangerous man who had learned to trust again. This scared, brave little girl who had lost one mother but was willing to open her heart to another. This strange, impossible family that had formed not from tradition or obligation, but from loyalty and sacrifice and love. Yes, Elena said, her voice cracking. Yes, I'll stay. Lily squealed and threw her arms around Elena's neck. Enzo's hand tightened on her shoulder, and she felt him lean down, his lips brushing the top of her head in a gesture so tender it made her heart ache. Thank you, he whispered. For saving her. For saving us. Elena closed her eyes, holding Lily close, feeling Enzo's presence solid and warm behind her. Thank you for letting me stay. They stayed like that for a long moment, three broken people who had somehow become whole together. Eventually, Enzo moved around to face them both. Come on, let's go for a walk. The doctor said you need more exercise. The doctor talks too much, Elena repeated, but she was smiling. Enzo helped her out of the wheelchair. She could walk now, though it tired her quickly. Lily took one hand, Enzo took the other, and they made their way down the path toward the beach. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. The waves rolled in gently, whispering secrets to the shore. They walked slowly, three figures against the vast ocean, no longer running from danger or hiding in shadows. Just a father finally at peace. A daughter finally safe. And a guardian angel who had finally found her way home. Behind them, the recovery home stood white and quiet, its purpose fulfilled. Tomorrow, they would return to the city, to the mansion that would become Elena's home, not her workplace. To a life that would be complicated and sometimes dangerous, but would be theirs. But tonight, they walked along the water's edge, and for the first time in years, none of them looked over their shoulders. They looked ahead. Together.